Welcome to the Week in Review, the show that brings you up to date on the week that was. Here are the top stories. Government makes compromise decision on spectrum refarming. Wipro separates its non-IT businesses. And RBI keeps rates unchanged despite pressure from the finance minister. First up, there's some clarity on the decision to refarm telecom spectrum. And while no one's happy, the government's new compromise solution could point the way to a more stable regime for allocating spectrum. On Thursday, an empowered group of ministers decided to allow older telecom firms to keep a portion of their 900 MHz spectrum. It said the service providers could retain 2.5 MHz in the 900 MHz band. Any operator that chooses to hold on to the spectrum will only be allowed to bid for an additional 2.5 MHz in the same band. The 900 MHz band is prized because its signals are strong and require much less infrastructure. Bharti Airtel, Vodafone, and Idea Cellular use spectrum in this band. They'll now have to use spectrum from the less efficient 1800 MHz band, which will mean spending a lot more on new telecom infrastructure. Moving on, it was an eventful week for Azim Premji's Wipro. On Friday, the company announced better-than-expected earnings. And more importantly, it announced a crucial demerger the previous day. The company announced it was separating its non-IT businesses and putting them together in a different outfit. That means its operations in consumer care, medical diagnostics, and infrastructure will form part of a new company called Wipro Enterprises. Azim Premji will remain Wipro's executive chairman. He'll also become non-executive of the new Wipro Enterprises. Software is Wipro's most profitable business, and the demerger is expected to increase the company's margins. Meanwhile, the company's second quarter performance also managed to impress. Its net profits rose 24% to 1,611 crores. In dollar terms, its revenue climbed 1.7% quarter-on-quarter to $1.54 billion. Wipro said it expected its IT business to grow by about 1 to 3% sequentially in the current quarter. Switching to the economy, the Finance Ministry and the RBI faced off early in the week over monetary policy. On Monday, Finance Minister P. Chidambaram announced a new fiscal consolidation plan. His move came just a day ahead of RBI's monetary policy review. Chidambaram's plan aims to keep the fiscal deficit down at 5.3% in 2012-13. And for 2013-14, that target goes down to 4.8% of GDP. Chidambaram then hinted RBI needed to ease its monetary policy. But the Reserve Bank didn't seem convinced. Instead, it acted along expected lines on Tuesday, leaving policy rates unchanged while cutting the cash reserve ratio. The repo, which is rate at which banks borrow overnight, remained at 8%, and the CRR was brought down by 25 basis points at 4.25%. The CRR cut is expected to pump in 17,500 crores into the banking system. RBI said the reduction would preempt any possible tightening in liquidity. The Reserve Bank has also cut its outlook for the economy. Its new inflation forecast for March of next year is 7.5% instead of 7%, and its forecast for economic growth is down to 5.8% from 6.5%. Still, RBI has hinted a rate cut could come by the end of the fiscal. Its statement said that there was a reasonable likelihood of an easing in the last quarter. Not surprisingly, the finance minister wasn't happy. While RBI had cited inflation as a key concern, P. Chidambaram said growth was an equal worry for the government. And here are some stories in brief. Manufacturing growth in India has nudged up slightly in October after falling to a 10-month low in September. The HSBC Market Purchasing Managers Index for October stood at 52.9. The previous month it was at 52.8. The Orissa government has set up a panel of ministers to look at ways to change the way iron and other mineral ores are distributed. It says the panel will recommend methods of making the allocation fair and equitable. Orissa produces more iron ore than any other state in India. And finally, Airports Authority of India will invest about 410 crores in the Mumbai and Delhi airports. Two of its officials have told Mint Delhi will receive 115 crores and Mumbai should get 295. That move comes just days after the Aviation Ministry told the operators of both airports to scrap their airport development fees. And that's all we have for you. Thank you for watching.